is Dallin from the Fantasy Fix. This is something very special to us. Todd is here at Lunchmade, and we have a special guest, Blake Jamieson, joining us today. Blake, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. Thank you guys both for having me. Stoked.
No problem.
Yeah.
Dude, it's our pleasure. This is something a little bit different for us. We're normally not like YouTube and video recording guys, but this is such a unique opportunity for us to get to talk to you today, and just going to give it a whirl. Hopefully it works out.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
So, Todd, why don't you kick us off, bud?
All right, cool. Well, we're big-time baseball fans and baseball geeks, and most of our time is spent in the fantasy world. And, we do a lot of ranking and we do podcasts, and a lot of our listeners, come from that realm. And unfortunately, we don't have baseball. So on the other side, too, we're big-time collectors. So, we got into this pretty early, and it's just super exciting. And, we fell in love with you pretty early, and a lot of it had to do with the social engagement. You guys are fantastic, your team. I wanted you to give props to your team and talk a little bit about your team and what the standard, day is like right now, because it's not just art.
Yeah, sure. Man, the team is amazing. I definitely would not be where I'm at right now without the support of a handful of very key players, I guess. So Tony and I met literally the day that my Nolan Ryan came out, which was my first card in Project 2020. It was card number 18, and he hit me up, and he had some ideas to help grow my business and my brand. He also has a background in PR, and he thought that there were a lot of awesome PR opportunities. And here we are less than 2 months later, and we've been in MLB.com and ESPN and Beckett, and just so much awesome publicity, as well as it was really helpful that he's actually pretty local. So he's in Jersey and I'm in New York, and so he can drive out and will come out several times a week. He's here in the studio with me today. So he's like the OG in terms of the team. He was the first addition to the team, and then it started to grow pretty quickly. So we have Matt Costello, amazing dude, used to write for MLB Pipeline, very good copywriter and copy editor, and just honestly one of the hardest working people that I know. And so he had hit me up also on Twitter, and it was one of those in the early days when I was packing and shipping everything myself, kind of a one-man shop. Tony was coming out to help sometimes, but I was doing a lot. And Matt just said, "Hey, if you ever need a hand, I'll come help you. I just would love to help." And I didn't think I was like, well, sure, but I'm in Long Island City, and it's really only helpful if you can come here and help me pack. And he's like, yeah, I'm in Astoria. I'm 10 minutes away. And so that worked out really well. We, brought him in, and he just super hard worker, really nice dude. And his role is kind of expanding. What we're actually hoping to do soon is he and I are going to start a podcast, mostly him. It's called Pretty Big News. And we're going to talk about some Project 2020 stuff. We're going to talk about some baseball stuff, but we're branding it in a way where we could kind of go any direction that we want with it. So right now we're in a phase where we're trying to get everything that's been ordered, like the artist autograph cards, which we do a lot of, shipped and out the door. They're literally sitting on my floor right next to me, and they're going to the post office today. And once those are out, my hope is that Matt is able to transition and we can really launch that podcast. And then my friend Andrew Choi, he is an accountant, formerly at VaynerMedia with Gary Vaynerchuk, which is someone that I admire greatly and love what Vayner is doing. With all of the COVID situation, they had a round of layoffs, and he was laid off. And as soon as that happened, I said, you got a new job, you're hired, literally same day, because I knew that the business is growing so quickly. And again, I've always done everything myself, even my own taxes, and now it's at a point where I need help. We need a person in-house to handle, the business on the financial side. So that's great. Funny enough, we have a second guy also named Andy Choi, literally same name. They spell their last name slightly different, but he helps with the YouTube channel management. And so, I do live streams every night at 10:23. And then he'll go in the next day and he'll make a nice graphic for the front and make sure that the descriptions look good and the keywords are good. So he's doing all the channel management, and also met him through Twitter. I do a lot on Twitter. And the funny thing is I had a lot of applicants when I said I wanted a YouTube channel manager was my next position to hire. I had all these people apply, and then I got this guy Andy's, but it just said AC. I actually didn't even know what his name was at that point, and he sent me in his experience. He's worked with like Warner Brothers in-house doing YouTube for their artists. He worked with Marshmello, the DJ. So he had like a really, really solid resume, and I was really impressed with that. And so I like knew that like he was probably the dude, and then he told me like his full name is Andy Choi, and I'm like, oh gosh, all right, we have two Andy Chois now. And then also like my girlfriend Lauren Mayhew, she is also an artist of sorts. She's a DJ and singer and actress. She's been an amazing help through a lot of this. She's helping right now put together a pitch for a TV show basically about this whole experience, and she just helps wherever. And then my parents, Rebecca and Patrick Jamieson, they're in California, and my sister Tess Jamieson. Tess is managing my email. My dad's working on building a new website. My mom catches all my typos. So it's like, I mean, everyone helps so much, and without them, it would be so challenging.
Dude, that's amazing. You're blessed to have that many people in your life that are willing to support this, right? That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
So, I want to ask you more about how this all happened so quickly, because it seemed to kind of just explode. And admittedly, I didn't jump in as early as Todd did. He got in. He got the Shore Mattingly, I think it was.
Okay.
And
Nice.
And then he's like, yo, check this card out. And I'm like, whoa, that's super cool. But how did this explode so quickly? Like, what set it off?
Well, it's crazy how life works. I've painted pro athletes, been focused on just pro athletes' portraits for almost 3 years now. Done a ton of work in the NFL. Was just starting to expand the business to other sports. So I'd done a couple hockey players, a couple baseball players, a couple soccer players. And before the Topps 2020 project, my business was like making one-of-one paintings, selling it to the athlete themselves, and then on to the next one. And sometimes I have a lot of repeat customers where players will come back for a Valentine's Day gift or a Father's Day gift or anything like that. But it was always like I had to, if I wanted to increase my income, I had to paint more things. And so I knew in my head that like I wanted to grow my business in ways where like I could paint something once and then it could get reprinted a bunch of times, like on a baseball card. So like it's more of a licensing deal. And so I had actually identified Topps as like the dream company, right? That was like the goal was it would work really well because I'm already painting athletes. They have the distribution network, and I collected Topps cards as a kid. So like it just seemed like it was a good fit. I was trying to reach out to Topps through connections of mine and came up completely dry. But it was like, as soon as I put my mind to that, I still came up blank. It was like it was the next day, next week. It was very soon after that Topps actually reached out to me just through like the contact form on my website. It was this guy, Jeff Heckman, who runs Project 2020. And he just said, hey, we have this project. We're working with a bunch of artists. We want to set up a call. He told me about Project 2020. And for anyone that doesn't know what it is, Topps basically hired 20 different artists to reimagine 20 iconic Topps baseball cards. And so I was one of the 20 artists chosen. So it was like, couldn't have been a better timing and better fit for like where I was at in my headspace with where I wanted to take the business. Now, that was like middle of last year. So it's actually been a long time in the works where like I've known about it. I was under a very strict NDA where I couldn't tell anyone about it. And I was sticking to that because I wasn't going to compromise, the goal, the dream, right? Once the project launched, like I was obviously very excited. Like when I saw my first piece of art, Nolan Ryan on a baseball card, is like a dream come true. And then like, you're right, it like took off so quickly that it was like, it's such a whirlwind from like, when Nolan Ryan launched, I was excited and like I bought 10 of them or something. And I was like, this is so cool. And then like where it's at now with like the volume of like, it's crazy. People are paying me for my autograph on a baseball card. It's amazing. And I also do a lot of autos for free. So if someone's collecting my whole set and wants to send me my cards, I will sign them for free. But I'm also buying hundreds and hundreds of my own cards now just so that we have inventory to sign and get back out to the fans, which is, like, I don't know. I didn't see it going as big as it has, and I don't think Top did either, which we've seen some supply chain kind of challenges. So I don't think anyone saw it coming, but it was like the perfect storm where there's no baseball, everyone's stuck at home, and I think that it's bringing people back to the hobby because people fall in love with this project, then they go digging through the garage and they find their old cards, and then they're looking through their old cards, and then they're back like in that zone. So that's really awesome. And then the other thing that I think a lot of people are missing is, like, as artists, we've all done different cool things. There's some guys that are just legendary, that are huge, that have had their own TV shows before or whatever. We all have our own audiences of art collectors, and at least for me, like, I have a ton of my art collectors that are really excited about the project because they've never been able to get a piece of art from me for $20 before. And so $20 might seem like a high price point to some people for one baseball card, but if you think of it like a tiny painting, it's actually very, very affordable. And my collectors recognize that. And so, like, and they're not just buying one either, like, they're buying 10 packs because they know that after the 48 hours, they can't get any more. So, like, it's just really interesting how everything's happening with, COVID sucks. The whole situation in the world sucks, but, like, we're giving something to look forward to every single day at 1 o'clock on the Topps website. And it's just really, really humbling to be a part of.
Well, and it's not just those cards that are coming out. You've given me something that I've been searching for over 20 years because I collect. Yeah. And I'm a baseball card collector. And now I have like 7 people I can talk about baseball cards with, not just like me and my brother,
Great. That's awesome.
So it's cool, to bring that. And I say it's kind of like the renaissance of baseball cards, but it's also the art side. And I was a sculpture major. I know that you didn't study and I wanted to ask you a little bit about your influences. I was a mixed media sculpture major, so Awesome. It's really cool, what you're doing to me. And, you sent me the paddock, and when you sent me this bad boy, for me to actually see a baseball card get tweaked is crazy. And for me, this was the first time that putting something on a baseball card didn't tweak it. And it became something new. And so it really opened up that side for me. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your background, your influences, and then we can talk a little bit about your mixed media.
Totally, man. So I grew up in a very creative household. My dad was a photographer for a long time, and now is an art collector. So he collects kind of very specific paintings, West Indian art. And so our house looks like a museum. It's awesome. And my mom does a lot of mosaic sculpture stuff. She does painting. She does mixed media stuff, just for fun as a hobby. And so I was always encouraged to like create stuff, and I always enjoyed it as a kid. But at some point in growing up, society convinces you, or you convince yourself, that art might not be a viable career path. So that's what I did. So when I went to college, my parents were encouraging me to study art, and I was shying away from it because I didn't think it would be the best move for, career-wise. And so I decided to study economics at UC Davis, just general thinking I'll do something in business. Ended up graduating right when social media marketing was really on the rise and taking off. And it was like the Wild West, where like there were no actual qualifications you could have at that point. It was just like companies realized like, oh, Twitter and Facebook are going to be here for a while. We should figure this out. So I was fresh out of college, and like I used Facebook a ton in college, which it was like a relatively new service. And so I would basically come in and help companies take their brand onto social media and tell their story in different ways, video, images, and copywriting stuff. And that was like a really great timing for me because I fell right into a job industry with like a really high income potential, with really not a lot of like any proven like best practices. And so I could kind of make them up as I go. And because of that, like I was able to be creative and express myself artistically a little bit in a more corporate setting. But after doing that for 8 years, it was on my 30th birthday that I basically was like, well, I didn't really feel creatively stimulated anymore. And I just felt like I was looking forward to Fridays and not looking forward to Mondays. And that just wasn't the way that I wanted to live my life. And, 30 felt like a big stepping stone for me. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to quit my job. So I quit that job. And it wasn't like necessarily that I wanted to quit and start painting right away. It was just that I wanted to quit and find something that made me really happy. Then I took a 5-week trip to Barcelona, Spain, and I'd never been to Europe before. I had no friends there. I had just a backpack and a hostel reservation for the first night. Showed up, the hostel turned me on to these walking tours throughout the city where they have like, it's a free tour, and you just walk around with a guide and they show you like different architecture or different whatever. And there was one of them that was graffiti and street art, and I really, really enjoyed it. And as soon as I got back from that trip back to my hostel, I noticed that across the street from the hostel there was a paint store, an art store. And so I went out and I got some supplies and just started cutting stencils on the roof of the hostel. And then at night I would go out in Barcelona and I'd be like doing street art and painting, in the streets. And like when you're in a foreign country and you're from California, you're like the cool kid. In California, I'm just a kid. But in Spain, they're like, ooh, you're from California. That's so cool. So like people were really encouraging, and that felt really, it's very good to get positive reinforcement early doing something like art. And so it was well received. So when I got back to the States, I just decided like, this is I'm going to give this a shot, and it's been fun. So that was like 5.5 years ago now, and I've been full-time painting ever since.
Dude, that's incredible.
Yeah. And then, you asked about inspiration. So if I see correctly, it looks like you have a Shepherd Ferry skateboard behind you.
Oh,
Is that 8 deck?
Yep, and that's Jello Biafra.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, Shepherd Ferry is a huge inspiration. I think that like one thing that I respect. So it's cool because I have this marketing background. Is that like I don't treat my art just like it's only art. Like it's definitely a business to me. And so like someone like Shepherd Ferry, I think did a really good job bridging the gap from like street art to the gallery, and really good brand building and really good like marketing and positioning. And like, so he's a huge inspiration. Andy Warhol, obviously is a classic, and that's kind of for the same reasons. I think like from a technical standpoint, I know that there's a lot of people that would say, oh, there's a lot better artists out there, but from a brand building standpoint, I don't think there's anybody that did it better than Andy Warhol. And I just, I love what he does. Basquiat, who kind of was mentored by Andy, I think that his style is awesome. So yeah, there's a lot of people, and they've all, I think I can see like parts of them in all of my work, and probably some other people can too, but like it's nice now that like I'm 5 years in, I've done this over and over enough times that like I feel like I'm kind of have come into my own style, and people can look at a painting and be like, that's a Blake Jamieson. And that's how I want it to be, which is really, really cool.
Great. Have you explored other mediums?
A little bit. So I've done some small scale sculpture stuff, which I enjoy. I did actually made this really cool. So I do a lot of spray paint and acrylic, and with the spray paint cans, I end up with these caps. The caps of the cans get clogged, and then you have to use a new one. And so I had this like giant bucket of spray paint caps. And I ended up we found a cool, like kind of Victorian-y looking chair from like a Goodwill. And then I glued on all of these spray paint caps to it. So it almost looked like an octopus. And then I spray painted it gold, and I made this like throne out of it, which is probably my favorite sculpture that I've ever made. But it's like this spray paint cap throne. I'm always like, acrylic and spray paint is kind of my go-to, but I've experimented a lot with silk screen. Not very good at it yet, but I would love to get better at that. Haven't really played with oils. I don't have the patience for it. It just takes too long to dry, and I like to work fast, and I like to finish projects and move on to the next thing. So yeah, some other mediums.
That's exciting. And then outside of the cards and everything, it looks when you cruise on the site, you're doing puzzles and stuff too. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the puzzle was like during the whole COVID situation, everyone stuck at home. I started seeing trends of like all my friends were Instagram posting about the puzzle they just did. And I was thinking like, obviously, like I said, it's a business, and I always have to figure out ways to make it work. And, before Tops started, but after COVID started. So it kind of, there was this like dead zone where like I didn't have a lot of new business because people were not spending money on a luxury item like a painting. And so I just was trying to find something to, A, to like fill in income gaps, B, to like give people what they want for like what they're doing right now. And also just like how the collectors, like they're buying my tiny paintings because they never have been able to get a painting for $20. With the puzzles, they're more than $20, but like once you put it together, you can frame it and you can have art. And so I was kind of trying to position it like that to say, hey, this is actually cheaper than any of my other art you can get, and it's entertaining. You could do it with your family, you could do it with your kids. And like I was fortunate because I had a backlog of, you know, hundreds and hundreds of paintings that I could just say, okay, cool, now we can make that into a puzzle. So it was like, spent like a solid week putting blakespuzzles.com together, like working 10, 12-hour days. My girlfriend was going nuts. She was like, just stop working on the puzzles. It was a lot of work. But like I said, I was like, just let's get through this. And now it's like, it's going pretty good. I mean, it's not a huge money maker, but it does. People are getting puzzles and they're having fun putting them together, and they're posting pictures and they're putting the art on their wall. And that's a really cool thing to see happen.
Oh yeah, like you said, they got a piece of Blake Jamieson in the house now, right?
Exactly.
That's so cool. I think I skipped over something. We talked about mediums and some influences. What about growing up? Any musical influences? Hip hop, classic rock? What did you listen to, and anything kind of stick with you?
Yeah, I mean, I love hip hop. I love Drake. I love a lot of artists, but like Drake was, I feel like, I mean, he's my favorite artist now and has been for a very, very long time. Obviously, so he came out, let's see, I must have been in like late high school or early college, at least, when I first heard his stuff. And before that, I listened to all types of music. I love classic rock. I love some like old school hip hop. But honestly, like when I'm here in my studio and I'm painting and working, I usually listen to audiobooks on Audible. So I'm like, I don't read very well or very much or well, either of those. But I love to like learn, and I love to listen to books about all different topics. So sometimes it's personal development, you know, self-help type of stuff, business books, and then sometimes, literally right now, I'm listening to a Michael Connelly book that just came out. That's like a, you know, police fiction, suspense kind of thriller book. And like, it's funny because I'm cutting a stencil right now for Mariano Rivera, which is going to be my next card that comes out. And I'm listening to this book, and like I just have this association with those two things. And so like I could look at a painting from 2 years ago, and more than likely I could tell you what book I was listening to while I was painting it and what that book is about. It's hard to explain. Apparently I'm an auditory learner, and I don't know. So I don't do a lot of music. I do a lot of books these days.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you watch a lot of cartoons growing up, collect toys, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I did. You know, I've been like a collector and a wheeler and dealer, little hustler for a long time. So like I did baseball cards for a while. I kind of fell out of that, but I collected. So I did like Pogs, like, you know, Pogs a lot at school. I did Magic cards, Magic the Gathering. And both like played the game, but also like just collected and was like always trying to trade. My sister and I had like this whole scheme going with Beanie Babies, where like we were we were going to conventions and we were finding the deals and flipping Beanie Babies, like making good money as like, you know, middle schoolers. So yeah, like I think like I've always had that kind of collector mindset, but it's also like, honestly, it's almost never, hadn't been until now it is, but like it was never about the PC for me. It was always just about the flip or the trade. Like I love that, like the barter system of just, it's so cool because like before I'm really old enough to have money, if I could have these like things like cards, and then it's basically like I can like, oh, I'm basically making money out of thin air. That's like a really fun experience. So yeah.
Who do you PC?
So Mark McGuire for forever, Jose Canseco a little bit less, Ricky Henderson. So all, you know, A's, and then Buster Posey is a recent person I started collecting. I love Buster Posey. When I started my art career, I actually moved from Arizona, where I was living at the time, back to just north of San Francisco with my parents. And that was right when the Giants were really having their like dynasty years. Every other year they were winning. So I was going to quite a few games at AT&T Park with friends, and so I just have like a lot of great memories there. And yeah, I just think Buster Posey is a beast. So I've started collecting him recently, but it's crazy like how generous the community is in the hobby, because like as soon as I told people when I top started, I said, yeah, I used to collect, from 85 to 95, and then I kind of fell out of baseball cards for a long time, and people were like, oh, we got you, we'll catch you up. And like the stuff that people send is just ridiculous, and like, we're sending out those art cards and stuff, but I still feel like, I mean, it's crazy. We're getting like ridiculous mail days, and so my Buster Posey collection is growing very fast, and yeah, it's awesome.
You're getting stacks every day from fans?
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's insane. Yes.
What's the coolest gift someone sent you so far?
Oh gosh, the coolest gift. I got some of these like pins from the Oakland A's from the 70s, like a 76 pin. People sent like, I got like a Gem Mint 10 that is Mark McGwire and Ricky Henderson, like dual card, and it's a 10. It's like it's insane, like the amount of like the autos and the patches and the relics, like it's bananas. Every time we open stuff, we're just like, wow, it's wild, man. It's wild.
It's exciting that not only are you giving us something great to put on our home, but then these people are reciprocating, right? They're giving back to you too, and just I think that's I'm getting back into the hobby after 20 years out, and I've just noticed that the community in general is just absolutely amazing. And I'm thankful for the people they send to me stuff, like,
Yeah.
Here's my Tatis.
Nice.
Little card. It's hard to see, but there's your little paint on there, and I'm very appreciative for you guys making that my way. But it's so cool, man. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's great.
Let's hear about more about McGwire.
Yeah. Okay. So we were, like I said, Oakland A's season ticket holders, and we had a pretty cool story where it was, I guess it was 85 when he was on the 84 USA team, or 85?
84.
Okay, so 84. So he was on the Team USA, but he hadn't been called up to the majors yet. But my dad knew who he was through, spring training and scouting and prospecting and stuff. And so we were actually on a road trip down to Southern California. So we were in San Diego, driving on the freeway. I'm like 1 or 2 years old, baby in the back seat in my car seat, and my parents are in the front. And they literally pull up next to Mark McGwire, like on the freeway, and they're like waving. And so they know that it's him, so they're like waving and stuff and going crazy. And he's like kind of like, what the heck's going on? And then they held up an A's hat, and they're like waving the A's hat, and he's like, oh, cool, so he got that. But like I said, this was before he'd been called up. So then we went to I don't know, like 6 months later or something, we went to spring training in Phoenix, Arizona. Again, I was like 2, so I don't remember this, but I love this story. And so my dad we saw Mark McGwire there, and my dad told him the story, and he said, oh man, that's so cool. Like, I didn't think anyone would recognize me outside the Bay Area. There's a lot of talent in the prospect class. Like, hopefully I'm going to get the call. And so he dubbed us his freeway fans, which was like a thing. And so then, like, whenever we'd see him throughout, we saw him a bunch with A's, and then also in St. Louis, when we moved from Florida to California, we did this road trip with my dad where we stopped at a Cardinals game, Rockies game, and I don't know, Atlanta Braves. So anyways, like over the years, he's known us as the freeway fans. Then I paint Mark McGwire for Topps very recently, did the kind of the stars and stripes, put him in the Team USA jersey, but in the 87 card kind of layout. And then that card got written about in MLB.com, which Matt helped set up because he had contacts there. And so then randomly, like, the card drops, I had MLB.com, and I also told this freeway fan story on my YouTube live stream one night. And they linked to that story from MLB. So Mark McGuire actually sees the article on MLB, and he told me, he's like, I don't even really go on that site anymore. I just randomly was there that day, and it just popped right up, and I'm like, oh, what's that? And he clicked it, and he went down a wormhole where he ended up watching the YouTube video of me telling the story about why that painting meant so much to me. And like, if you watch the episode, like, I get like very emotional, like when I'm like reading the story about it that my dad wrote. Like, it's awesome. And so he like saw all that, and then he found my email address, which, you know, I'm pretty easy to contact. But like the day after the MLB article came out, like I literally had an email from Mark McGuire, super nice. Like, he's like, I totally remember you and your parents, you know, this, that, and the other, all the stuff. So I respond, you know, thank you so much. You know, I was honored to paint you and whatnot. And then he's like, yeah, let's set up a phone call. And so we jumped on a phone call and we talked for like 20 minutes. He's so nice. And yeah, it was just like, it was really, really cool to like reconnect with like my childhood idol, and potentially, like, obviously right now with what's going on, there aren't like big meetups, but he said like, hey, let's meet up sometime, you know, you can sign a card for me or whatever. Like he seemed very generous and open to like collaborating in ways like that, which would just be like insane. So it's pretty cool how it comes full circle.
Well, and McGuire's about to get bigger now with the ESPN 30 for 30 with the Sosa thing too.
I know, it's about to blow up, which is cool because everyone knows my McGuire story and everyone's sending me all these McGuire cards for my PC. Like, this is a great time to have a giant McGuire PC, I think. I'm really excited. Matt and I are going to watch the episode this weekend. I think it's on Sunday night, right? Sunday at 9 or something on ESPN. Yeah, we're definitely going to watch that. It's very exciting.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, you know, I was at spring training in Yuma. That's where the Padres would always be. And so my dad one day pushed me into a room and said, go in there and ask for the equipment manager. And I was a little kid and I had no idea what I was doing. Well, it ended up, that was the Angels back in the day with like Gene Mock and, you know, way back then. And then I ended up doing it another year for the A's. And I was lucky enough to sit on the bench with McGuire and Canseco. And I ended up tweeting at Canseco saying, hey, it's your redheaded, you know, bat boy back from the mid-'80s. He's like, I remember you. So one of these days I want to show up at, he has a spot in Vegas now, the Canseco's Car Wash.
Okay.
So he just started that and see if, you know, I could, because he hangs out. He's a crazy guy. If you follow him on Twitter, he's got some fun stories.
He's a character for sure. Yeah.
So there's another question I wanted to ask you. Like when you're painting things, is there anything extra like special that you've painted on, like expensive cards or unusual items or?
So I did. I wish if I could have had it. It's in the other room. It's kind of buried. I did a basketball for Duke when Zion was there. And it's really complicated to paint on, because I was actually painting portraits of faces, and I was doing it with stencils like I normally do, and it was all pictures of the Cameron Crazies, so it's all the fans on the ball. By far the most like challenging, and also like, so Duke sent me, and I also did some paint, like I did some actual paintings on canvas for them, but that was like one special thing I did, and it was for the game against UNC, you know, the rivalry. Each year they have a custom painted ball that they pass around the stands, and then they take a bunch of photos with it and use it for promo stuff. And in the previous 2 years that they've been doing it, they was always having students do it. And they're like, this year we want to like hire a reputable artist to make something awesome. So like Duke sent me these, like, you know, it's got the Nike and it's got the Duke D, and you know, they're not cheap basketballs, and like there's no redos. So that was definitely a little bit, I don't know. It wasn't even stressful. It was just like a fun challenge. I've worked with the company in California called West Coast Leather. They make like really high-end leather jackets that are like $1,200 to $6,000 for like a jacket. And they had me paint on a handful of jackets, and literally just gave me like 6 jackets, and they're like, okay, let's do Audrey Hepburn on this one, and you know, I did all these like kind of iconic people on these leather jackets. So that was like, that's probably the most expensive canvases I've ever worked on. And again, it was like, it's a little bit stressful, but it's also just like fun, like just crazy to think about, to be like, yep, about to splatter paint on this jacket that costs more than people's car, like, or something. Like it's insane. Speaking of cars, it would be so sick. I reached when the Cybertruck came out or was announced, Tesla. I tweeted to Elon Musk to be like, "Yo, let me paint on one of those," because that looks like it's great. It's all flat surfaces and kind of geometric. I would love to paint on a Cybertruck. Next goal, manifest that one.
You were talking about, painting some other types of stars. Have you ever thought about doing like musicians or, actresses, actors, anything like that, or, icon type paintings?
Yeah. So a friend of mine in LA named Rich Ferry is an insanely talented photographer. He was the staff photographer at the Forum, which is like a big venue in LA. And so he's had Kanye West and Lady Gaga and Willie Nelson and all these people come through and perform. And because he works with the venue, he gets to do sometimes private photo shoots with them. And we worked out a deal early on. I haven't done this for a long time, and honestly I have to reconnect with him. But I said, hey, can I use some of your epic photos? I'll make paintings from them, and then I'll just give you one. I'll keep you stocked with paintings. And he said, okay, sure, that's fine. So through him, I have done, again, this isn't for the person, but it was just a picture of the person. So I did a picture of Drake from his photograph, which I love, and that's just hanging in my house in California. Did an awesome Willie Nelson, which actually is going to Willie finally. 4 years later, we've connected, and we're going to mail that to him. So I have done some. I did a Mick Jagger, actually, that I really like. I also did a Mick Jagger on one of those leather jackets. Trying to think of some others. So yeah, I have done some. I think that from a branding standpoint, and this is my marketer speaking of I know that it's important to have a focus and have a niche, and professional athletes has been my niche for a specific reason of when people want a painting, if they want it of an athlete, I want them to think of me first, and that's intentional. So if I went and painted tons more celebrities or musicians and stuff, and that I just feel like I could get lost in the fray, because there's a lot of people that just paint anybody famous across any industry. I want to have a laser focus so that I'm the guy for the thing that I want to do. And even I've even thought now with this, I went from professional athletes to now I'm doing the Topps cards. Maybe I'll just for a while I'm just going to focus on baseball, and not even do other sports, because I'm pretty solidified in the NFL. I was at the Super Bowl. I painted at Cam Newton's Super Bowl party. I painted for 400 NFL athletes, including most of the superstars. So there's still a lot of business to be had there for sure. But baseball is new and exciting market for me, and the collecting side of things is something that really resonates with me and I love. So I never had that sense of community when I was painting football players. The football players will hit me up, and some of them are friendly, and a lot of them are friendly. They're good dudes, but it's not I was engaging with the fans, and then they were helping pick colors, and then all the stuff that's going on with the Topps 2020 project just wasn't happening in my business before Project 2020.
That's crazy.
So you have a big Tony Gwynn card coming up sometime down the pipeline, and that's I'm born and raised in San Diego. That's my hero.
Nice.
So I can't wait for that card. Do you have you started? I know that. What do they give you? A couple artists, then it takes how much time do you have once they tell you and you have to deliver?
So they give us a lot of heads up. We got 6 or 7 cards at a time to start. Right at the beginning, we said these are due on these dates and they're going to print on these dates. And there's a little bit, there's different things that change sometimes. They're swapping cards in and out, a little plus or minus. I knew my Mariano Rivera was next week. I didn't know exactly what day it would be, and they literally just texted me today, and said, Mo's on Tuesday, make sure it's in before Monday, which really means Friday, which is tomorrow. And I had not started too much, and so outside of this interview today, all I'm doing is working on Mo. I'll be here very late tonight. I'll spend the night at the studio, wake up tomorrow, and just keep knocking that out. So I'm doing it in the last possible minute, but not because of Topps, just because of the business is growing, and I've spent a lot of the last few weeks kind of setting up systems so that the business runs smoothly. Not as much time as I probably should be painting. As far as the Tony Gwynn card, so if you've seen the Don Mattingly card, which was my second release. It had the double image, and I did the swap of, the kind of mugshot, and then I put him in the field down below. I got a lot of good feedback on that, so I'm thinking with the Tony Gwynn, I'll probably do that same thing. Not 100% committed to it, but I think that's what I'm going to do with him. I do have, what's his name? Matt Taylor. So Matt Taylor's one of the other artists. I've had a lot of the artists on my live streams for interviews. Matt and I just started speaking. And that reminds me, Tony, will you remind me to reach out to Matt Taylor? So I saw his Tony Gwynn card, which is coming out this upcoming week. It is freaking insane. It is so good. Like, I'm so excited for it. And that's like so fun, like in this project, is like I get like so hyped on the other artists. And like I see that card and I'm like, oh crap, I really got to step up my game for my Tony Gwynn, because it is my favorite Matt Taylor card. And I really love the Ricky Henderson card that he did. I think that was my second favorite card. But it's also my favorite Tony Gwynn of the whole set. And so like he just knocked it out of the park completely. And yeah, I'm excited. So I think we're gonna debut that on my live stream. We haven't set a day. Tony will make sure that I follow up with him, and we'll get him on the YouTube to make sure that we can show that to the people, because it's a gorgeous card.
This is just a personal take, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'm starting to get introduced to a lot of these new artists and starting to figure out what their strengths are, and enjoying their particular cards. But it seems like a lot of these artists, the cards are getting better by the day.
Definitely.
And is that like feedback that you're getting from or artists in general, maybe getting back from the community or from Topps or just from the sales, or how is that working, or how does that change like your mindset moving forward?
So I can only tell you like my own perspective, and then a couple artists that I'm very close with that we've kind of talked about, everybody stepping up their game. It's like, it is a combination of being inspired, I think, by other artists. Like I said, like I saw that Tony Gwynn card and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta crush it with my Tony Gwynn, because like I'm a competitive dude. So it's partially that. I also think, and less so for me than maybe some of the other artists, but like some of the other artists aren't realizing until recently how big this thing is, and the community too. And so like I think that a lot of artists are starting to dedicate more time, physical hours, into each card. I think that's increasing. Definitely. I mean, we're all friendly. I mean, I haven't spoken to every single artist, but I've spoken to at least half of them now, and like we all get along really great, and we inspire and lift each other up. But we're also like competitive. So like, I want to have the coolest Mark McGwire card. I want to have the coolest so and so. What's up, Matt? Yeah. So it's like the combination of everything, like people understanding the project's blowing up, being inspired by other artists. Yeah.
Do you have any
Did you know any of the other artists before this started?
So I was a huge fan of Gregory Siff before this project. He's been one of my favorite artists since I started painting, and I'd never talked to him before this project. And as soon as I saw we were both in it, I was like, oh, that's great. And then now like we're homies and we text all the time, and he sent me like this beautiful care package of just some awesome stuff. And so like it's so cool that this project is like, again, connected me with like Mark McGwire, like one of my idols in the art world. I think that Gregory Siff and what he's done is just phenomenal, and he's such a nice dude. I had done a group show with King Saladin in Philadelphia 76ers crossover event, which is this big group show. He was part of it, and a lot of the artists just like mailed their art in. There was only maybe a smaller handful of local artists that submitted art for the show but also showed up, and he was one of them. So like we had a good chat and got along really well. I haven't actually talked to him very much throughout this Project 2020 stuff. Definitely a guy that I would like to reconnect with more. And then everyone else, honestly, outside of those two, everyone else is brand new to me, and that's like so fun to like find, a bunch of other artists that now I'm like, wow, like they're killing it, and their art is awesome, and it's really cool.
Is there one you gravitate more than others that you're just like, wow, every time you see something new? Or is there one that, kind of catches your fancy more than others?
It's hard. I mean, I really like Andrew Thiel's work. I think is phenomenal. It's so I think like so I'm like an analog painter. I paint actual paint on an actual canvas. And a lot of like the fun thing about this project is that everyone's medium is different. We have some people that do a combination of like analog and digital. We have some people that stick strictly to digital. And even in the digital space, there's some people that are doing it like on a touchpad, like a sketch pad or whatever, like a kind of a iPad or a Wacom tablet. And then there's some people that are just kind of doing like just Photoshop stuff and just taking like photo elements. So like it's just really interesting to me like to see that the full spectrum of it, and like I appreciate all of it. Yeah.
How did you get Ben Baller to work with you on that Trout? How did that work out?
It was his idea actually. So so Ben and I started talking on Twitter, and when we very first started talking, it wasn't friendly. It was like I felt I honestly I saw some of his tweets that I misunderstood. I interpreted them the wrong way, but like now looking back at the context, it makes more sense of why he tweeted those things. But like I thought I was standing up for the other artists and saying like, hey Ben, like we're all crushing it, and whatever. So we kind of got over this initial hump misunderstanding, and then like we just became friends. And so we'll send each other stuff that we're working on. And he had sent me a card, and I said, oh, I'm working on this Trout, but it's not quite there yet. He's like, oh, send me a picture, and I sent it to him. He said, hey, can I do something to it for you? And I said, of course. He's like, all right, send me the Photoshop file. And so I did, and the cool thing is like with the bling border is like it's like the 2011 update card. That's the Diamond Anniversary update, which is a gorgeous card and also very highly sought after in the collector space. So like it just made a lot of sense on that card, and I didn't know if Topps was gonna even let me do it because I don't know, that just doesn't happen. It never happened before, and like that was card 100, and it was Mike Trout, and it was like the perfect storm. And Topps was like, yeah, actually that's pretty cool. And so it's like the only thing Ben wanted, he's like, yeah, can you just put Ben Baller did the bling on the back of the card? And I was like, of course. And so like it was just like really a really fun thing. And like I said, like we're friends. I don't think we've talked today, but we talked yesterday about his Cal Ripken, which is out now, which is amazing card, I think. I love his work. I know that he can be polarizing on social media, but I just think like I know him behind Twitter. He's a really good dude, super nice human, and I was honored to be able to work with him on the Trout.
Yeah, Did you know that Topps was going to insert that auto?
No. Well, I did about 2 days before it launched. I knew. Yeah, they told me they're like, we have something that I think is going to help. We have a surprise basically, and I was like, okay. And and then Jeff called me. I think it was that Monday or something, and told me about the autos, which I think it was a really cool thing. I ordered a bunch of Trout cards, so I hope that I get one. Doing it cool. It would be so sick, but I don't know if I would crack it or not.
You got the 42 Jackie Robinson, so you got a good number there, and then you get the first collaboration with the 100 with the auto. Do you think that Topps is doing what most of us are doing, and they're leeching onto you because you're the most polarizing that kind of I feel right now in this whole project?
Well, the 42 thing is funny. So you guys, I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with blowout forums.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a blowout forum thread that's about Project 2020. A lot of great discussion in there. It's funny because it started off as like everyone hating on Project 2020, and then it's now like everyone's fanboys of it, which is great. And I still have a couple haters on there, but so people were talking about print runs and how the artist doesn't matter. The only thing that impacts the print run is whoever player you're painting. I said, well, that's not entirely true if you look at the numbers. I worked at data-driven marketing for a while. There's a lot of factors. Yes, players might be the top deciding factor, but it's also the artists. Artists do have their own fans, and you can see some artists are doing more volume than others. It's also the timing of the week. Typically, cards that launch earlier in the week do better than cards that launch later in the week because people have gone all weekend not spending their money on cards and not having cards, and then Monday and Tuesday drops always do well. It's harder to do well, I think, on a Thursday or Friday. It's getting to the end of the week. People just spent all their money on all the other cards. It really have to be a nice card for people to buy like in bulk. And then the other thing was other like miscellaneous timing kind of timing things. So it could be like the pairing of the card you're paired with. If I have any card and it's paired with someone's Mike Trout card, it's going to get more traffic, and so it's probably going to pick up some extra sales because of that. And then the final thing was like the timing of like what number card it is, or does it drop on like there was a Willie Mays that dropped on like Willie Mays Day or so, like, you know, like just literal timing. And in that thread, I said, for example, card 42 should be somebody's Jackie Robinson. And I didn't tell Topps that. I put it on Blowout, but Topps also monitors Blowout. They're very, even though they're like lurking, like they are listening. And so the next day I had an email from Jeff Heckman, who runs the thing, and he said, hey, I saw the post about Jackie being 42, and I had already submitted my Jackie artwork for some ambiguous date in the future. I didn't know which date it was going to be. He said, well, are you okay if we bump your Jackie up so it could be number 42? And I said, of course, that's awesome. And then, you know, with the Trout, that was just really, I mean, it was Topps came to me and said, hey, we're going to make your Trout number 100, but it was just like, it could have been 100 or it could have been 101. They just decided to make it the Trout because it's Trout and first collab and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's really cool. Like, I don't think Topps gets enough credit. Like, I know that there are a lot of shortcomings and things that probably could be better, but nobody knew that it was going to be what it was. And they are actually listening and making changes and trying to, you know, putting the CAPTCHA on the site and have to be logged in and changing the prices of the APs to try and avoid the bots and, you know, dealing with, I know we have like case one-touch issues, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys can see massive stack of one-touches. So like when I do autos, if the case doesn't look great to us, whether it's a one-touch or not, we replace it. And they have like a lot of that like process taken care of. I think that supply chain side of things is going to get a lot better very soon. But also, Topps is a big company, and they're not going to go out and say it's about to be better, because then everyone's going to put them on the hook to be it better. They're kind of been silent on it. I know that they're doing a lot of work, and I think that I don't know. I think they're doing a good job, all things considered.
They are. There's been a lot of people complaining about this or that. I think they got probably overwhelmed, right, due to the high volume they didn't expect.
Yep.
Yep. And you know, there's a couple of mine that aren't perfect, but as a collector, you're like, the card is perfect, you know, and it's going to sit there in a special spot, and I'm not worried. But I think the people that jumped in late to try to invest and flip, they're probably bummed out. But have they talked to you guys, or have you been able to give them like any feedback on like the quality of the card or the quality of the cases or the stickers being crooked? Do they really care, or is
sure that they know, man? I mean, imagine trying to put stickers on 100,000 cards and have them shipped out like tomorrow. Like, we're doing, you know, here in the studio, we're doing autos by the hundreds, not by the thousands, and it's a lot of work, and it's tough. And fortunately, like I said, I have an amazing team around me. They're super hardworking. They're very detail oriented. They are very empathetic. You know, when customers have their own special needs or requests, that we always try and make it happen. And so I'm sure the Topps knows. I mean, look, it's a great hobby. There's amazing people in it, but there's also a lot of people that are going to make something out of nothing. And we've seen it all the time. Like, we're mailing people those art cards that are literally free. You don't have to do anything. You just put your in address and we'll send you a card. Now, it does take some time to get the card because we have thousands of cards to send out. And like, literally, people have been like gotten legitimately mad at me or said, I'm not following you anymore because I haven't gotten my free stuff yet. Like, there are people like that in the hobby and all, you know, in the world. And so, like, you know, you can't please everyone. It sucks because, like, I'm a really sensitive dude and that those comments hurt. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, I can't get hung up on those type of situations, because the vast majority of situations are overwhelmingly positive. Everyone's overwhelmingly generous. You know, they're sending these ridiculous care packages, and we're getting care packages back out to people as fast as we possibly can. And, you know, I wish it was faster, just like I'm sure Topps wishes all the stickers were straight. But it is what it is, and, you know, just part of it.
That's big. Well, we've taken a lot of your time. I wanted to ask you about, did you see the Mr. Cartoon Henderson today?
McGuire.
Or
McGuire.
McGuire? Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Oh,
did.
man.
Yeah, I saw the McGuire and then the George Brett by Old Man Allen. Um, I respect all artists. I think that all artists should do whatever they think is best. You know, to be completely candid with you, seeing those cards today is a little bit disheartening because they didn't use the original card as a reference at all. Like, there's really no element of the original card in either of those two cards, and that's okay. You know, if they apparently Topps was ready to run with it and was okay with that. So, you know, when I did my McGuire, and this is really why. When I did my McGuire originally, I painted number 41 on it for his Team USA number because I was trying to kind of have an homage to the 85, which I consider the true rookie card. Well, very last minute, Topps said, hey, we can't release that 41 because we don't have the license for that card. Now I think Fleer has it, and so we're just we got to protect ourselves. You have to change the number to 25, which was his number on the A's. And so, like, it was literally 12 hours before the card was going to go live on the site or something that I was, like, in my studio, like, rushing to paint something again. So, and that's okay. Like, I don't mind. I understand Topps has got to protect themselves. 100% fine. I get that. I'm glad that I tried on the 41 and then it got nixed. But, like, for that to happen and then to see cards come out that are just different, they're not the original, you know, that's a little tough. But again, Topps is a business. They know what they're doing. I trust them. Maybe they had the license to those other images. Maybe they have special deals with those artists, and that's totally fine. I think, like, as an artist, I love Mr. Cartoon. I think that his work is amazing. Old Man Allen, TBD. I honestly, I didn't know that much about him before, and his cards are, I think they're going to look really good as a set, which is cool. He's strayed from, like, some of the original photos, which is, like I said, I mean, it is what it is. It's just, like, it's interesting when I have to go in and change, like, the number on a jersey, but I literally use the same photo, and then someone else can just use a totally different photo, and they're like, okay. So it's whatever. I mean, I'm collecting the whole set, so I'm buying them. I'm in for probably 5 of each of those.
Who are you looking forward to creating next? Anyone that's left on your list that you're saying to yourself, I can't wait to get started on this?
Okay, well, good question. I look at it like the piece that I'm looking forward to the most is always my next card. Like I said, I'm a competitive dude. Like, every single time I'm focusing on a piece of art, it's like Game 7, dialed in, and that's all that I'm focused on. So right now, Mariano Rivera is coming out Tuesday. That's what I'm dialed in on and I'm most excited about. I have a really cool idea that Tony helped with that I think people are going to really like. It's going to be a fun spin on the Mo card. And, yeah, I mean, my next card after that's Willie Mays, which is going to be fun. I have painted Willie Mays in the past, which is really cool. And then if I had to pick another one, the Ken Griffey is going to be really good. I've actually painted him twice already, and like every time I think it gets a little better. And it's not uncommon for me to paint multiple paintings to figure out what the card's going to be. And sometimes it's paintings and then getting feedback from the community and from Twitter and from YouTube or from Blowout, and then going back to the drawing board literally and making adjustments and then making a new card and coming back to the community and saying, how about now? So the Ken Griffey, we're going to be on the third take once we get to it, and I think, like, we finally have it dialed in, and I think it's going to blow people's minds. So I'd say those 3 are the ones I'm most excited about right now.
Cool. I think I'm most excited about your Ken Griffey as well.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Super
so
pumped.
You said when you tried to change the actual number, they nixed that and made you change it. Like, on the Gwyn rocks like a 50 something because it was his rookie year. Are you going to be able to change that to a 19? Because that would be something that would win over San Diego for sure. Because 19 is fly.
Tony's writing that down.
All right, cool. You know, because if you could switch that, because 19 in San Diego, everyone knows what 19 is.
Cool. I like it.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
We've taken a lot of your time today too, man. And you have painting to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna go paint some Mo, but it's all good. Yeah, no, I really appreciate you guys having me. By the way, I wanted to ask you, Todd, is that the wax pack? Is that the book up there on the shelf?
Yeah,
I got that too. Yeah, I got that too. I saw him on a podcast interview with Nick Dionte, who I met through 2020. He interviewed the author, and I forget, he's kind of a hard to pronounce last name.
Bajukijan. That's my yeah. But that whole, I still have yet to get in there. My mom actually got that for me, but it seems like the whole story is just awesome. Just cracking open a pack and going and searching those guys out. And I think that Hollywood is talking to him about a movie. So
it's amazing.
Baseball cards are coming back big time.
They are. I mean, like I said, like we're putting together a pitch for a show, and like my agent like loves it. He's like, this is great right now. What else was I gonna say? Who's on the Wheaties box? There's like some glare. I see that over on the other side.
I've got a Gwyn right here.
Okay.
That's a Gwyn.
Wire Wheaties box.
And that's Pete Rose.
Nice. Oh, that's sick.
It doesn't have any Wheaties in it, but I kept these in boxes. I have one.
Money.
Oh, dude. Love it. Was a big Pete Rose fan. I was a big Schmidt, Pete Rose, and then when Tony Gwynn came into San Diego, he took it over.
Yeah, no, I love it too. I think I have some Pete Rose card art that we've been doing that I think are going to be really special when they're done. They're really cool.
Very cool. Awesome. Love to check it out. Well, thank you so much for jumping on here. I mean, it means the world to me as a collector and a fan to be able to talk to you, and a lot of our listeners too. And I'm sure the same for Alan as well.
Yeah, very, very thankful for your time. And I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards you, and not trying to kiss your ass or anything, but you've been very open to the community. The interactions that all you guys have with the fans has been amazing. And I think that's what's drawing. You're a personable guy. And I think it's easy to connect to, and the art itself speaks for itself. Yeah. Just it's little sprinkles on top that you guys are so cool, and we appreciate it, and all the fans appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing all your cards coming out soon. And
awesome. Hey, before we sign off, can I tell people about my YouTube channel and my website?
Yeah, plug whatever you want, brother.
Okay, great. So I guess if people have a question, the best way is on Twitter. I'm just at Blake Jamieson. It's becoming harder and harder, but I try my best to respond to everyone. And usually I'll do that in chunks. So, once a day I'll just go through and try and get through. And I'm super honest and transparent about everything. Ask me anything. If you want to do that, Twitter's the best place. If you want to watch me create my art or sometimes do AMAs or have guests on, youtube.com/Blake Jamieson is my channel. I live stream every single night, 10:23 p.m. Eastern. And then my website is proathleteportraits.com. And that is where I drop my artist autograph series. There's a big portfolio to see some of my past work. In the future, pretty soon, we're going to have ways where, like, if someone wanted to send in a baseball card to have it hand embellished with some card art, then they'd be able to do that. Same thing, if you want to mail in your Project 2020 cards to get signed by me, which I will do for free, that's going to be coming up in the next couple weeks or a month or something. Those are the three places.
Excellent. Awesome. We're gonna plug that quite a bit on the site and on all of our streams and Twitter feeds, and
I think I'm there every night. I check in and say what's up to the dudes, and and that's part of it too. It's kind of like they said for like card breakers for a long time. Some people don't even have a break in that, they just jump in to say hi to their buddies. It's kind of like Cheers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's so much fun. And it's cool. So my dad's on the West Coast, and so it's nice because it's not 10:23 for him. It's 7:23, but he's there every night telling stories about me, asking me questions, ribbing me about not knowing enough about my A's history. It's hilarious. It's so much fun. The community's amazing.
Thanks again, buddy. We really keep up the awesome work. We're stoked. We're following. We're livening it up, telling everyone we know. To ask Alan, I'm like normal conversations. I'm like, hey, did you hear about Project 2020?
I love it. Yeah.
He's parading down the streets with his Blake Jamieson fan art.
There you go. That's great. I love it.
All right, brother. Well, you be good. You guys be safe over there with the whole team. Greatly appreciate everything that you guys are doing for the community and for yourself, most importantly, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Be healthy, be safe, and let's get together soon.
That's right. Stay awesome.
All right. Stay awesome. Later, bro.
See ya.